Did you know that a mediocre idea wrapped in a compelling story will outperform a brilliant idea poorly explained every single time? In a world drowning in data, those who master storytelling hold the true power of persuasion. Imagine two pieces of information entering your brain: a cold statistic and a compelling story. Your brain doesn't treat them equally. When you encounter a narrative, your neural networks light up like a Christmas tree. Multiple brain regions activate simultaneously. Areas responsible for language, emotions, sensory processing, and memory all fire together. This creates powerful neural imprints that statistics alone simply cannot match. We are, in our very biology, wired for stories. Consider what researchers call the identifiable victim effect. Studies repeatedly show that people donate significantly more money when presented with the story of a single child in need, compared to learning that millions are suffering. One study found that donations dropped by half when statistics were added to a story about a hungry child. The reason? Stories create emotional connections. Numbers create emotional distance. We live in an attention economy where the average person is bombarded with over 5,000 messages daily. In this overwhelming information landscape, what breaks through? Not data, regardless of how important it might be. Stories do. They create the emotional resonance that captures attention, drives understanding, and most importantly, inspires action. In our digital world, the best story doesn't just edge out the competition, it crushes it. In 1997, Apple was on the verge of bankruptcy with just 4% market share. But instead of bombarding consumers with technical specs, they launched the Think Different campaign. These simple ads, featuring Einstein, Gandhi, and other visionaries, never mentioned a single product feature, yet they transformed Apple into a symbol of creativity and rebellion. The power wasn't in the processes. It was in the story that using an apple meant you were different, innovative, special. Political campaigns masterfully demonstrate how narratives trump data. Economic experts can present mountains of statistics showing policies won't work, but candidates who tell compelling stories about economic problems win anyway. Remember, it's the economy, stupid. That simple narrative crushed incumbent George H.W. Bush despite improving economic indicators. The candidate with the better economic story almost always wins, regardless of what the data actually shows. Scientific breakthroughs face the same challenge. When Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis discovered that hand-washing prevented childbed fever in 1847, he was ridiculed and ignored for decades. His data was solid, but he failed to package it in a compelling narrative that doctors could embrace. It took Louis Pasteur's germ theory story, with its villains germs and heroes scientists, to finally make hand-washing standard practice. The lesson? In the battle between narratives and numbers, the best story always wins. What makes certain stories utterly captivating while others fall flat? The answer lies in three critical elements that transform ordinary narratives into unforgettable experiences. First, emotional resonance. While statistics might tell you that 70% of customers prefer a certain feature, a story about Sarah, whose business was saved by that same feature, creates an emotional connection that numbers simply cannot match. Think about Morgan Freeman reading a grocery list. His emotional delivery could make even mundane content compelling. This emotional bridge is what separates forgettable data from unforgettable stories. Second, relatable characters facing genuine conflicts. Human brains are wired to track individuals, not abstractions. When we structure narratives around identifiable protagonists confronting obstacles, our audience instinctively connects. Compare market penetration increased 23% last quarter to John, a first-time entrepreneur, overcame 3 rejections before finally securing his breakthrough deal. The second version activates the same neural pathways as real-life social interactions. Finally, simplicity and coherence. Our minds desperately seek patterns and logical connections. Masterful storytellers create clear cause and effect relationships that satisfy this craving, even when reality is more complex. They understand that a coherent, simplified narrative will always outperform a perfectly accurate but convoluted one. When crafting your stories, remember, emotion, character, and coherence are the trifecta that makes narratives irresistible. In the battle of ideas, we face a troubling reality. Factual accuracy alone rarely wins. When incorrect ideas find charismatic messengers, they often triumph over solid facts with poor delivery. Think about how viral misinformation spreads, not through statistical evidence, but through emotional stories that stick. The most compelling narratives bypass our critical thinking, making us share before we verify. The consequences are everywhere. Climate scientists struggled for decades to move public opinion despite overwhelming data. Why? Because graphs and statistical models can't compete with simple stories about jobs or tradition. The breakthrough came when communicators shifted to narratives about protecting our children's future and showcased visible impacts happening now. So how do we champion truth without manipulating facts? The answer lies in ethical storytelling, finding the human element within your data. The most effective communicators balance emotional resonance with unwavering accuracy. They use concrete examples, relatable characters, and clear stakes. Remember, in a world where narratives crush numbers every time, truth desperately needs better storytellers. Your responsibility isn't just to know the facts, it's to craft them into stories that can stand their ground against misinformation. Because when truth finds its voice, it has the power to change minds and transform our world. Becoming a master storyteller isn't about innate talent, it's about deliberate practice and strategic technique. Let's explore how to transform raw information into compelling narratives that resonate with audiences worldwide. The storytelling transformation process begins by identifying the emotional core of your data. Take a business metric, say, a 23% increase in customer retention, and humanize it. That's not just a percentage. It's 23 families who continue to trust your product, 23 relationships strengthened. Structure this human element with a clear beginning that hooks attention, a middle that creates tension, and a resolution that delivers your core message. Developing an authentic voice means finding the natural intersection between your personality and your message. If you're analytical, embrace that, use precise details and logical progression in your stories. If you're naturally empathetic, lean into emotional connections. Authenticity resonates across cultures because audiences can sense when you're forcing a style that isn't yours. Practice regularly. Record yourself, listen back, and refine until your storytelling voice feels as natural as conversation. Finally, create a systematic story bank, your personal narrative arsenal. Keep a journal dedicated to capturing meaningful moments, professional wins, instructive failures, and customer interactions. Organize these by theme, emotion, and purpose. When you need to illustrate leadership, innovation, or resilience, you'll have relevant stories ready to deploy. Remember, in a world drowning in information, the best story doesn't just win, it's the only thing people remember. Remember, in a world drowning in data, the best story will always win hearts and change minds. Craft your narrative with passion and watch as your message takes flight. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button to join our storytelling revolution. Share in the comments your experience where a powerful story trumped cold statistics. And let's build this narrative-driven community together.